Lord, teach us to pray, as John taught his disciples. So asked one of Jesus' disciples in the gospel which you just heard read. Who taught you to pray? Who taught you to pray? Several weeks ago I mentioned that it was my mother who taught me to pray, which was ironic because my father was the Episcopalian in the family. Had grown up in the church, an acolyte, played in the church recreation league, the baseball league, all in a large city church. But it was my country-bred and raised Methodist mother who undertook the task of teaching me to pray. To this day, I remember her making me kneel beside my bed, my hands folded, and learning to say, "Now I lay me down to sleep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to keep." That'll scare the hell out of a 5-year-old. Let me say at the outset that prayer is the recognition, the assertion, the hope that we are not alone. Prayer is the recognition that we are not alone. From the beginning of time, from day one, recorded in Genesis, all the way through to the last page of Revelation, is the assertion that we are not alone. That we are the creatures of a benevolent and loving Creator, the one who has created us, calls us precious. As the old saying goes, God does not make junk. We are precious in God's sight, and that is the affirmation that we need to keep being reminded of. Also, as a corollary to that, I want to dispel the notion that faith is something about individuality. How many times have you been told, "Oh, you just have to have faith"? Well, that's nice if you have it. We all need faith, and it is not an individual endeavor. And the clue to that is in this morning's gospel. Saying that you have to have faith conveys the fact that it's your individual initiative for you to achieve faith. But that's not the way we are made. When Jesus is asked to teach the disciples how to pray, he doesn't say anything about, well, you have to do this. You have to do that. You begin prayer with saying, "Our Father." Our Father. The plural pronoun of I. It's all about we. Having faith has to do with the collective family, not something you achieve as an individual. Jesus goes on to tell that inquiring follower that God's name is sacred, hallowed, if you will. But you know, your name and my name is sacred as well. Because it's not about who we are, only it's about whose we are. That point in baptism when we ask the parents and sponsors to name the person being baptized. And they are baptized in the name of God. That makes us all related That's what makes us family. It's about belonging. And through that baptism we belong. Just as through the miracle of birth we belong to another family. Your name is safe. I love the story of the kindergarten teacher who asked of her young children the question, how do you know when someone loves you? The little boy answered the question that your name is safe in their mouth. Your name is safe in their mouth. Jesus goes on to say, pray that the Father's kingdom will come among us. We don't talk much about kingdoms anymore. We talk more about nations and nation states. We're all about power. Who has the power and what will we do with the power that we have? There's economic power, cultural power, military power. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that the major emphasis on power has overshadowed, if not replaced, any talk about kingdoms. Kingdoms where forgiveness is practiced. Kingdoms where acceptance is essential. Kingdoms where mercy is offered. Kingdoms that are spiritual as well as physical. God's kingdom is always in confrontation with the kingdoms that we create. One writer has said, many a person has come to grief attempting to domesticate God as a cheerleader for the American way or as a cosmic Federal Express. I love it. The reality is that you and I live in two kingdoms simultaneously. The kingdom of this world and the kingdom of God. You come into this world through the miracle of birth, and you come into God's kingdom because you were baptized. And so each of us has to choose which of those kingdoms will we pay the most attention to. You can't escape either one. Jesus goes on to say, pray for daily bread. Pray for daily bread. I'm not sure when the term bread became synonymous with wealth. My grandson will tell you that he's making bread. He's making bread. And he's spending every bit of it. In the story of the Exodus, the Hebrews are escaping slavery in Egypt. They're in the wilderness. They're not sure of where they're going, but they're being led. They're hungry. They're thirsty. Go to Moses and say, help! We're hungry. And in the morning there is that white stuff on the ground. Not a lot, just enough for one day, but sufficient for one day. It's called manna. Manna. When we want to meet God, we Christians do not go up to some high mountain. We don't rummage around in our psyches or hold hands or close our eyes and sing Kumbaya in the hope of revelation. we gather and break bread in God's name. We gather and break bread. That's where Jesus said He will meet us, where God will meet us in that breaking of the bread. It's not just survival strategy, no matter how much bread we get. We are mortal. We are mortal. And in praying for daily bread, we are praying for the daily presence of God to come among us. Jesus tells that disciple, secondly, pray for forgiveness. Pray for forgiveness. I don't want to belabor the point. If you are not in need of forgiveness, God bless you. I don't know what you're doing here, but God bless anyone. No, we are all in need of forgiveness. Not long ago, I was talking to a former parishioner from long ago, a woman. I asked about her husband, and she told me that they were separated and in the process of divorce. And I was surprised. I remembered them as a loving couple. So I said, what happened? And she went through a list of failures and disappointments that we all experience. But her final remark was this: he never said he was sorry. He never said he was sorry. So we ask for forgiveness. Jesus' final petition in the lesson for this morning is, do not bring us to the time of trial. Do not bring us to the time of trial. I don't consider myself a pessimist, but rather I prefer the term a realist. And I do not believe that you can get through this life without times of trial. I've never met anyone yet who's made it. You and I are uniquely created. I do believe that. And that we are dependent creatures. We are dependent on the food we eat, the water we drink, the care and nurture of parents and friends and society as a whole. We speak of times of trial and tribulation, and there is no escape. There will be trials. Jesus tells his listeners a story about a man who comes knocking at his neighbor's door at midnight asking for bread. He has an unexpected visitor. He's hungry. And so the man knocks on his neighbor's door at midnight. The neighbor calls out, probably through the window, "Go away, I'm in bed, my children are with me." The man doesn't go away. He's persistent. He keeps knocking. And Jesus asks of his audience, as a parent, would you deny your child something to eat if they're hungry? Would you deny your child medical care if they're sick? No. No. That we are dependent on each other and on each other's generosity and each other's mercy, just as we are dependent on God. My friend and colleague, Barbara Taylor, talks about the simplest of prayers, and I know exactly what she means. What's the simplest prayer you know? Help! Help! If you haven't called for help, something's drastically wrong. And when help comes, hopefully your next spoken word is thanks. Thanks. And when you look back on the need for help and help is given, hopefully your next thought is wow. Wow. So the next time you hear about prayer, it'll be a 3-word operation. Help, thanks, wow. So I say to you, ask and it will be given you, search and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who searches finds. And for everyone who knocks on the door will be open. That's not my promise. That's Jesus. And you can take it to the bank. Amen.